This is a model of an electric flat motor in Sacramento Northern colors during the Korean War era. SN number 405 was one of 4 originally built by the SN predecessor, Northern Electric, in their Chico, California shops in the 1907 to 1914 time frame. First, some background information. During World War II and the Korean War, several of these flat motors were used to connect the SN's Oakland station and small yard to the Oakland Army base to bring the base munitions and supplies that would be shipped overseas to those two conflicts. Here, during the Korean War of the early 1950s, an SN train runs through Montclair at Snake Road with 3 lead cars full of munitions. From the small SN yard at 40th and Shafter, an SN flat motor will use the Key Systems C line to forward the loads to the Oakland Army base, here. This was the Key Systems busy C line from Piedmont down to the Emeryville area. The Key System had very high overhead wires that required special tall pantographs to be installed on the SN freight motors, such as this Baldwin Westinghouse on the point of a freight train to the Oakland terminal. Back to the future of model railroading those early 1950s times. These gondola loads were built to represent the type of munitions forwarded to the Oakland Army base brought in by SN freight trains on a daily basis. So the next step was to develop a flat motor to forward the munitions to an Army base. It started by creating a base chassis of 41 feet out of brass material. That's about 5 feet longer than the 650 class motors by GE. These motorized trucks will be mounted in these 2 pivot holes. The brass screws will be hidden by the large cab area. The truck pickup and motor wires will be passed through these styrene tubes. These gear motor power trucks are from an Australian supplier. I decided to try them, and they are surprisingly strong and smooth running. I used brass side frames soldered to a cross plate. Somewhat after this photo, I deleted the screws and epoxied the assembly to the bottom of the power trucks. I added solder strips to keep the DCC wiring organized. By scaling photos of the cab area, I took a guess of dimensions and the required side window sizes. All the windows were made using Tichy Train Group number 8162 masonry windows cut down to the 0.56 inch width using an old chopper by the Northwest Shortline Company. The pieces were glued together and a center divider plus bottom details were added using Evergreen brand white styrene plastic strips. After notching out the sides to fit the window assemblies in, the sides are reinforced with evergreen styrene strips. The ends are made by using Tichy Train Group number 8009 doors and windows that are 0.5 inch tall and 0.6 inches wide. I had some Western Pacific orange diesel stripes that I cut up in a way to piece together the long group of orange stripes on the finished model. I wanted to avoid airbrushing them on with elaborate masking to preserve the black area. The arched roof was made from 40,000ths of an inch thick evergreen sheet stock wrapped around a length of ABS pipe with an outside diameter 2.35 inches. I used stainless steel spiral clamps to secure it and baked it in an electric oven at around 150 degrees for 20 minutes. If you do this, don't leave the room and have something like a fire extinguisher nearby. The softening point of the ABS is a much higher point than the softening point of the styrene, fortunately. I let the oven cool down for about 30 minutes before removing the clamps. The plastic retained the desired shape, and the curled edges were cut off to make the 4.1 inch long roof with some overhang on both sides. The smaller piece on the right was tested first on a smaller diameter iron pipe before making the final piece. The final piece was cut to 4.1 inches long with a chord length of 1.5 inches to make the required overhang on the sides. Next, I used the ABS pipe to trace a couple of 2.35-inch diameter circles. I cut these out and made segments with a chord length of 1 inch to make stiffening ribs CA glued to the underside of the roof. I made a pair that fit the width of the end pieces to act as a template for cutting the final end top shapes. The ends and sides are CA'd together to fit exactly across the width of the brass chassis. Next, the roof is centered on the body and CA'd in place. The rooftop mount platform for the pantograph was made out of brass shapes and soldered together for durability. 4 0-70 nuts were soldered under the cross planks to mount the pantograph. The brass rods are from 0.03-inch diameter brass wire stock. I made them longer than the final size. Getting everything marked off to drill the 8 mounting holes was a challenge, checking as things went along. The installed height allowed clearance to the wood plank walkway that was there on the real 405 before the lower perch was made to add the extra tall pantograph. This was to allow reaching the higher key system wires and yet have the ability to compress down to clear the low crossing clearance when the tracks went under SP's tracks in Emeryville. The white insulators under the pantograph are styrene tubing with the inner diameter that clears the O-72 mounting screws. Mounting perches were made for the train number board on the engineer's side and the center headlight for both ends. The handrails are U-shaped so that the cab can be removed easily. The trucks had to be shifted as far back as possible to hide the truck mounting screws inside the body dimensions. This forced the front handrails to have added extensions to look right. Here the extensions are added to line up with the 4 ladders on the sides. All these little deviations were needed to make it a running model and still look like something reasonable. So here's the finished model, painted in stripe. Number 405 was the only flat motor to receive these colors. It really helped make this 1914 locomotive look like it belonged in the 1950s compared to its sister units. The headlights are equipped with LEDs, and with a DCC decoder they can be turned on and off remotely. Here's another class of power used between the SN yard and the Army base on the key system tracks. They didn't need a caboose because they had men brave enough to make do. It was a different time, all right. Here's a short train behind 405 for its first time. Be sure to check into our website for a great deal more in early railroading history and model railroading videos as well. And thanks for watching. Since this video was first made, Tenshodo came out with greatly improved self-powered trucks, and in the process of using them, I totally rebuilt the framework and the chassis, and I included more accurate platform handrails.